Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that completely proves chess isn't just a game of strategy, it's actually a profound language of survival, of resilience, and, honestly, desperate hope. We're looking at a time when the chessboard literally became a map of human endurance. So I want you to imagine something truly extraordinary for a second. Imagine playing a game, but not for a trophy, not for money, and definitely not for fame. Imagine pushing your brain to its absolute limits, trying to break a mathematically impossible world record simply because you're hoping someone, somewhere, will recognize your name. Well, that was the actual reality for one of the greatest chess players of the 20th century. Picture this. It's August 1939, and a 29-year-old Polish chess prodigy named Miguel Najdorf boards a passenger ship called the Persepolis. He's crossing the Atlantic, heading to Buenos Aires with some of Europe's greatest minds for the 8th Chess Olympiad. Now, at the time, Poland was an absolute chess powerhouse, and Najdorf was one of its brightest stars. But here's the heartbreaking part. When he got on that ship, he left his wife, his young daughter, and his extended family back in Warsaw, thinking he'd be home in just a few weeks. He had no idea this voyage would sever him from his family forever. Which brings us to part one, a voyage into the unknown. The transatlantic crossing that changed absolutely everything. You see, history shifted right under their feet, right in the middle of the Olympiad in South America. September 1st, 1939 hit. Nazi Germany invaded Poland and World War II officially began. The geopolitical shockwave was just instant. Overnight, the map of the world was completely rewritten, and those European players in Buenos Aires, they were suddenly stranded on the other side of the globe. The oceans had literally turned into a war zone, with U-boats prowling the Atlantic and these massive naval blockades shutting down shipping lanes. Going back by sea was essentially a death sentence. And for Najdorf, who was a Jewish man, returning to a Nazi-occupied Poland was entirely unthinkable. So he, along with several other players, was forced to make the agonizing decision to just stay in Argentina. Moving on to part two, the blindfold message. This was his desperate transmission across a broken world. As the war raged on, transatlantic communication completely collapsed. Najdorf was totally cut off. Horrific rumors of the Holocaust were starting to reach South America, and he desperately needed a way to tell his wife and daughter he was still alive. Now, he couldn't just send a letter. The blockade stopped all civilian mail. But he had this incredible theory. He figured if he used his mind to pull off a feat so mathematically impossible that it made global front pages, the news might just slip through those blockades and make it into Polish newspapers. So what did he do? He aimed for the impossible, the number 45. In 1947, over in São Paulo, Brazil, Najdorf set up this astonishing chess exhibition. He played 45 different opponents simultaneously, but here's the crazy catch. He played all 45 games completely blindfolded. He didn't look at a single chessboard. And out of all those games, he won 39, drew 4, and lost only 2. Just wild. To really grasp what that means for the human brain, just think about the number 1200. Najdorf had to hold the constantly shifting positions of over 1,200 individual pieces purely in his working memory. Guys, there were no computers, no electronic boards, no assistants whispering moves into a little earpiece, nothing. It was literally just one man holding a whole universe of possibilities entirely in his mind. And Najdorf later explained the true motivation behind this. He said he hoped newspapers around the world would publish his achievement so his family would realize he was alive. This staggering display of human memory, it wasn't for fame, it wasn't about ego. It was essentially a desperate message in a bottle, cast into the ocean of global media, aimed squarely at his loved ones back in Poland. This takes us to Section 3, the tragic reality, the message that never arrived. Now, the news of that 1947 exhibition did echo around the world. It made international headlines exactly like he planned. But when the war finally ended, the truth he uncovered was just devastating. That message never reached its intended audience. Najdorf learned the heartbreaking reality. His wife, his young daughter, his parents, and his 4 brothers had all been murdered in the Holocaust. Almost his entire family was gone. It was this unimaginable grief that would haunt him for the rest of his life. And yet, we arrive at part 4, the enduring Najdorf legacy, rebuilding a life and a legend. Because despite that unimaginable trauma, he chose to live, Argentina welcomed him with open arms. He changed his first name to Miguel, became an Argentine citizen, and evolved into one of Latin America's strongest and most beloved grandmasters. He was known for this super cheerful, energetic personality, always entertaining crowds with his humor and his brilliant moves. He completely dominated Argentine chess for decades, sitting across the board from historical icons ranging from Bobby Fischer to Che Guevara. And his lasting legacy in the game itself lives on today. Millions of players know him for the Najdorf variation, which is one of the most influential, aggressive, and heavily analyzed opening systems in the entire history of chess. We're talking world champions here. Garry Kasparov, Viswanathan Anand, Magnus Carlsen, they've all relied on it at the absolute pinnacle of elite chess. For the chess fans out there, here's a quick look at the first 5 moves of the Sicilian defense that make up this famous variation. It starts with e4, c5, building up the tension right away, until we get to the critical 5th move for black, pawn to a6. Now, it looks like a simple, quiet little pawn move, but it is incredibly flexible. That tiny pawn move actually does 2 massive things. First, it prevents white's pieces from occupying important squares, and simultaneously, it prepares black for some really dynamic, creative counterplay. It perfectly reflected Najdorf's personal style, too. He hated passive defense. He much preferred taking calculated risks and forcing complicated positions where creativity and imagination mattered way more than just memorized theory. His career was really nothing short of legendary. He competed against the absolute giants of the game: Alekhine, Capablanca, Botvinnik, and Fischer. He's widely considered one of the strongest players to never win the world title. And his love for the game, it literally never faded. He remained this super active ambassador, going to tournaments and inspiring younger generations well into his 80s and 90s, right up until his death in 1997 at the age of 87. Think about this for a second. Every single time a chess player begins the Sicilian Najdorf, they honor not just a brilliant opening, but the remarkable man whose life proved that even after unimaginable loss, hope can endure. Miguel Najdorf's greatest victory wasn't a tournament trophy. It was surviving history. It was taking a 64-square board and turning it into a permanent testament to the human spirit. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this question. In the face of unimaginable barriers, how will you use your own unique abilities to leave a legacy that outlasts tragedy? Take a moment to really reflect on Miguel Najdorf's unbelievable resilience and ask yourself how you can channel that kind of enduring brilliance in your own life. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this truly phenomenal story. Keep learning, keep pushing your limits, and I'll see you in the next one.